All right. Here we are. I want to say hey to everybody. Appreciate everybody being here. Let me get the link out there for you guys. We're going to be talking about the Fourth Amendment. We're going to try to keep it under an hour. Anybody that comes up on the panel, we're going to keep everybody. If you don't have anything to add to the discussion, then just hang out in the chat. If you want to talk about, I'm trying to pin the comment. It's not. I can't find the right one. That's not the right one. Why can't I find it? That's not it either. All right. Well, I just have to do it the old-fashioned way. Again, if you do come on panel, you will be on Roku, and the ones in the chat will not be. And the panel rules are pretty straightforward. Hang on, I got them wrote down here. We won't be answering any questions about the Roku channel, right? Not during the first hour. After the hour's over, I will be shutting the stream down. So anybody that's that comes up here on the panel, will need to be muted while others are talking. Any disruption, you'll get a warning, and then you'll be put in the basement. After that, you'll be kicked off the stream. No exceptions. So, Majorly Awesome's in the house. How you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm all right.
We started yet, or we still?
No, you go ahead if you want to. I was pretty much just explaining the rules and talking the disclaimer about being on the panel. Other than that, you can go ahead and take over.
All right, great. Well, yeah, I was hoping I wouldn't be too late. I'm driving back from Tombstone today, so.
No, you're fine.
Good deal. All right, so I wanted to start off a little bit about why the Fourth Amendment was, wanted, needed by the founders, and I wanted to start off talking about writs of assistance, which was the warrants that the king would issue to search, people or places. And, back then, the writs of assistance weren't like our warrants today, where they had to specify a certain, person or place to be searched or item to be seized. These special warrants lasted the life of the sovereign, and they could search anybody in any house looking for smuggled goods. That was the big thing back then. We touched on it, I believe, when we were talking about the Boston Tea Party and that kind of stuff. So these guys, they would have these writs of assistance, and these guys were, of course, smuggling in Dutch tea. And so, these guys would go, house to house, whatever, and be able to use these writs to basically search through, whatever they wanted to, looking for smuggled items. And these writs, like I said, would last from, the life of the sovereign plus 6 months. So I think it was when King George II died, the English Parliament tried to reissue new special writs, and this was, I think, was in 1760. and we fought against them, but they still ended up being passed. So this was a troubling thing to our founders back then, the people that were helping to shape the country and the Constitution. They're used to these redcoats coming in their house pretty much whenever they wanted and looking, through whatever they wanted, their underwear drawer or whatever. Looking for smuggled Dutch tea or East Asian jade or whatever it was that they were on the banned list or the smuggled list. So in 1765, there was a case in England. It was Intech versus Harrington. And basically what had happened there was this gentleman, Wilkes, I believe his name was, he had some pamphlets and papers that were deemed, harmful to the king, treasonous maybe even. And a gentleman known to associate with him, Intok, he also got served with these warrants and papers, and they searched through his house and his belongings and everything, and out of that arose a court case, and the English court decided that the writs and the way they were executed was just inappropriate. So it was a pretty important case in Fourth Amendment jurisprudence, that we, took at the time and incorporated into our Fourth Amendment protections, which, as everybody knows, is the right to be secure in your papers and persons from unlawful seizure, unless a due warrant is shown, for cause and affirmation. Because again, these writs of assistance were just pretty much given out, so it's like, hey, I need to search whatever for whatever. They're like, yeah, whatever. So, but now with the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment, you had to have probable cause based on oath or affirmation. And back then, oath or affirmations, those were stiff penalties. If you lied under oath, you could very well be going to jail yourself. So, people weren't just calling like they are today and saying, hey, I think my neighbor's a crackhead. Why don't you come search his house? You know, pretty harsh stuff if you messed around with the system. It's kind of watered down now. You can pretty much say anything, and the cops are going to be there beating on someone's door. Hey, I heard my neighbor scream, and blah blah blah, and the cops are beating down their door. Now there is some discrepancies on the Fourth Amendment between the first and the second clause, and that being that the first clause is being separated from the second clause. So there's what I call exemptions even in the Constitution, and we find those exemptions like we have a search subject to arrest. So if you're arrested, they have the right without a warrant to search you. Same thing with your property. If you get you get pulled over, you get arrested, they're going to search your property. So there's all kinds of exceptions to the amendments and to the constitutions, inside the Constitution itself. And again, this is a civil right. This isn't a natural right. There's no natural right to be secure in your people or your persons or your papers. When rights first started, it was might makes right. So even though you have a natural right to life, if a bigger caveman came up to you with a club and beat you on the head until you died, he just took your right to life, and there was no court system or no justice system in which to punish him, except for maybe if you had like a cousin or something. He's like, hey, you killed my cousin, and then he beat that caveman in the head with a club himself. So when rights started off, it was might makes right, and that's pretty much why society was formed, is to protect our rights and obviously to give us duties as well. with every corresponding right, there's a corresponding obligation. It's tit for tat. Nothing for you don't get nothing for nothing. So when society was born, or when people decided to get involved with a group of people and form a society for protection, um, then certain rules had to be made, and what would happen is we would trade our natural rights that we have, our God-given rights, and we would trade them for civil rights, and those civil rights are rights that society has decided that its citizens should be allowed to have. Everybody in the world has natural rights. Doesn't matter where you're from, China, Russia, Yugoslavia, Australia, America. We all have certain natural rights. We're born with a voice box. We have a right to speak. We're born with hands and fists. We have a right to defend ourselves. We have two legs. We have the right to travel. Those are natural rights. And we don't have to wait for government to form to give those to us or to exercise those rights. But when we go into society, society says, hey, some of those natural rights, they work in nature, like, back in the day, if you were out in the woods and somebody stole from you, then you could chop off their hand, and that was fair, but, when you enter society, you can't just go around chopping people's hands off, because society has a justice system, and it has a way to deal out punishment for those that are breaking the law. So, can you hear me, Jeff? Am I still there?
You're
Yeah,
still
you
hanging
still
in there.
you 5x5, baby.
You're
Okay,
still
good.
hanging.
I didn't know if
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. How you guys doing? But you guys continue so I can catch up. I just bailed over here. I'd rather listen to you rap for a little while, Rogue. Anyway,
yeah, we're just going
this is
over.
the Third Amendment, right? This is the Third Amendment.
No,
I can't
the fourth.
have enemy
The
combatants.
fourth.
Huh? What? Oh, the fourth.
Come on, man.
I'm just having fun.
All right.
Well, I'm having fun. Go ahead. You guys go ahead, man.
All right, so yeah, we're just discussing civil rights versus natural rights, and how we got to where we are in the Fourth Amendment, and what was important about it, and
Oh, that
how
was
it came.
smart. That was smart
Um,
to start with. Yeah, that was smart.
yeah. So when we look at rights, especially with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and this is an easy way for I tell people that they can figure out the difference between a natural right and a civil right. And the way to do that is, if you can imagine being born on a deserted island and you are the only person there, what rights you would have, you know, um, and then obviously the rights that you don't have um, would be because they're civil rights. If you're alone on a deserted island, you don't have a right to a speedy trial because there is no
You
trial.
you don't need it.
Yeah, there's no one there to judge you.
No one hurt.
Right. So I mean, there's an obvious difference between a civil right and a natural right. And why I tell people why we have to fight for these rights is because civil rights are given to us by the government. They're given to us by law. Like before the Constitution, before the amendments, there never was a First Amendment. You know what I mean? There's no case from before the Constitution where someone had violated someone else's First Amendment right to free speech.
I understand.
It just wasn't there. And that's another reason why women and African Americans had to fight for their civil rights, because even though they were citizens, they still weren't afforded those rights by the government. Now, if they're natural rights, they have them naturally. They don't need the government to say, hey, you can walk, or hey, you can talk. You know what I mean?
Let's stay with the civil rights for a second, because I got a little hiccup with the civil rights. Doesn't that mean that certain laws apply to certain people, right? And isn't that inherently bogus? In that unconstitutional to even do such a thing? You can't make a law just for blacks.
Well, and here's the thing. You know, a lot of our legal stuff is meant to keep the common man down. You know, I realized the story of freedom that we were all fed in school about how everybody here in America is free and you know we're all living the good
Yeah,
life and stuff.
yeah,
But when you really break it down, um, you know, America wasn't for people to be free. It was for the elite
yes,
to you know, pretty much suck up all the wealth and distribute all the work and all the you know,
agreed.
all the pain and misery and laws down to the common
And
people.
they
You know,
decide who gets what work, because they'll give these guys a really shitty education. We only need the drones. We need worker drones. We'll give these guys slightly better. We need managerial. And the real shit, they'll decide who joins their club, who really gets access and all of that stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know, when we think about it, when we really sit down and think about it and we look back at history, we realize that the common man has been shit upon in every society known to man.
I
And it
agree.
would be not, yeah, it'd be naive to believe that just, you know, all of a sudden all these rich people, you know, the founders of our country, the merchants and the, you know, the big, you know, I would call them corporate farmers now, but the ones with the plantations and stuff like that, it would be
Yeah,
naive to think that these guys were like, oh, let me throw away my fortune and my
I
life
know.
to to better this bum down the street. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man, that goes against human nature. You know what I
It's
mean?
not
And
logical to me either. One
right,
second. Anybody in that ANN, if you're in chat, hop your ass up here. I just
yeah,
saw John. I heard someone say CFW. If you're in chat, you need to be on panel. All right. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. So, and then when you look at other stuff too, like an example, John D. Rockefeller is one of the main uh, supporters of public school back in the day. And when you look into how public school started and who funded it, and you know, the University of Chicago, John D. Rockefeller started that. Now you got to ask yourself this question. Here's a man who got the nickname Wreck-a-Fella because of his business practices being so ruthless. Okay, this is a cutthroat businessman. So logically, I mean, logically, when you're thinking about it, why would this gentleman uh, uh, you know, fund schooling so that there's now hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are coming up trying to take a piece of him and his hair's empires. You know what I
Right. He
mean?
has
Like,
to have a reason. Right.
I don't.
right.
Hang on just a second. If I don't know who that is trying to come up here, but if your real name ain't there, I got to see
That
who
ain't
you
big
are.
sexy.
Hang
Is
on.
that big
No,
sexy?
no, no.
All right.
I don't know who that is, and you're not coming on the panel with that name, especially if I don't know who you are. So if you want on the panel, you need to put your real name, your right name on there. Go ahead.
Right.
You're
So
right. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, you know, when we just sit back and we take a look at things and we put it a little bit in perspective and we clear away that cloud of belief that the government has put in our
No, wait.
brain.
You were on JD Rockefeller and you was on to something. Hold on before we leave that clown. Like you said, it's not logical for him to fund all of this shit and just start building competition. That's not the way rich think. That's not how you get super rich. And I don't know if you believe like I do. Hey, baby, the right to be secure in papers, house, set effects against unreasonable search and warrants. Yes, baby. Uh, I don't know if you believe the shit I believe, but I've also seen this dude come out of his mouth with that population control shit. He also does not believe that he believes there's too many people. He believed the population should be drastically cut, and he's been saying that for a long time before all this stuff came about. That's all I wanted to add, bro.
Hey,
Right,
Ray,
right. Well,
we got a question from the chat.
Okay.
NJ Sentinel says, does the Bill of Rights apply to illegals? Thank you, NJ Sentinel, for that.
No, it does not. And the reason it doesn't, and let me be clear, the reason it doesn't is the same reason it didn't apply to African Americans in 1920, and it didn't apply to women in 1860, because they're not citizens.
Yeah,
The Bill of Rights
it
is
cannot.
specifically right. The Bill of Rights is specifically applies to United States citizens. Now that doesn't mean that illegals don't have natural rights and don't have, rights that have to be respected by the
Or
government.
protected. Right. But
Right.
right.
But they don't have the right to bear arms, and they don't have the right to vote, and they don't have the right to a speedy trial. They don't have any of those rights. Again, those aren't natural rights. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has the right to defend themselves. That's the natural right.
That's a
And see
natural right.
right. And what the government has done with the Bill of Rights is what I call mimic natural rights. So it's kind of confusing for people. Okay. So the right to bear arms is not a natural right, because when man was first started on this planet, there were no arms. You had rocks and sticks and your fists. You know what I mean?
That's
So
right.
that's not a natural right. Over time, men developed arms, and some societies have allowed their citizens to bear arms. Correct.
Yeah, you can
But
debate
but
whether the right
everybody,
to defend yourself is a natural right, but that bear
that's right.
arms, yeah,
Right. And everybody, even in China, the right to defend yourself is self-defense against murder. You know what I mean? So if someone's attacking you, you have the right to defend yourself, and that's in every country. You know what I mean? Whether you're in communist or whatever.
all right.
You know. So and again, this is, stuff that the government leaves out of our teaching. They mimic the natural rights and the civil rights to help the confusion along. You know what I
I was
mean?
trying to wait before we really get into the fourth until a couple more of our buddies popped up.
Well, they got the opportunity. They just ain't coming up. So they know they invited, right?
All right,
They
I
got the
can't
group.
force
They
them.
got
I
the
can only
group
fuck
text. You know what I mean? So if they don't want to come up, they just don't want to come up.
All
Well,
right,
they might be stage shy too. You never know.
Well, maybe.
or like really ugly. That John Felix guy, he's really ugly.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't cut my camera on. What?
All right, let's talk about some Fourth Amendment. First of all, Rogue, I guess you should break down the Fourth Amendment. You would do it better than I would.
Well,
We
Joe, if
know.
you'd have got here on time, he actually was breaking it down.
We pretty much broke it down, but I'll go through just a small recap, and that is, basically the Fourth Amendment came about because of the writs of assistance that the king was pushing back in the 1700s, where the writs of assistance were general, meaning that if you had this writ of assistance, if you were a redcoat, you could basically go in any house you wanted, search any house, search any person, and it was basically brought about due to the wide amount of smuggling that was going on in the colonies. Again, somebody's echoing. I point to
CFW.
the Dutch. Hey, CFW.
There we go. Hey. Hey, immigrants do.
Go ahead.
Immigrants do have the same rights we have if they're here in the country. They have a right to the speedy trial, everything. They can't vote, but they have the rights to everything else, like a freedom of speech, all that. If they're here,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
they can't be denied their rights just because they're illegal immigrants. They have the same rights
really,
we have.
they got,
They're unalienable. They're unalienable, so they do.
Big sexy.
Right. I got my overalls on, so no more.
I want to.
John,
That's
I
what I
can't
was
see you.
asking.
I'm bringing them back.
Hold on. All right, let's clear up some myths real quick. You said they're unalienable. Where did you get that from?
The word inalienable?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're born with. We're born with inalienable rights. Is that right?
Natural rights, right?
Yeah. But
okay, so hold on. Let me finish. We're going to go along a set pattern here. So if
Yeah,
these are
mute your
natural,
mic. I'm sorry, Ro. Everybody mute your mic if you're not talking. And if you talk out of turn, Joe Cool, I will put you in the basement. Thank you.
Blow me,
all right.
nigga.
All right. So if they're natural, CFW, let's say you were born on a deserted island. It was you and your mother died during childbirth. You're the only person on this island. Do you have a right to a speedy trial?
Yes.
You do have a right to a speedy trial. Who's going to give you that speedy trial? The 12 orangutans or the 12 giraffes?
Well, when the island finally gets populated, what do you mean? It's an idea.
I can't
Who would have that
hear
right
whoever's
here with
talking.
Yeah,
us?
that guy's not
John,
good.
hang on, John. We can't understand you, man.
It's an idea. It's not something you can hold. I mean, I'm trying to understand what he's getting at.
What I'm getting at is that natural rights and civil rights are not the same thing, which is why they're not all called natural rights or all called civil rights. There's a difference between them, which is why they're called different things.
So you're saying because
Civil-
we're on an island and there's no civics, there's no civil rights.
No, civil rights
No.
are given by the government.
Right. Civil rights are given to us by the government. Okay. So, for example, here's a perfect example. A man in China has a right to speak, right? He has a voice box. Unfortunately, the Chinese government has not allowed him a First Amendment right. So he has consequences for whatever he chooses to speak. Okay. So the civil right of the First Amendment can't be a natural right because no one else in the world has the First Amendment, only Americans. Okay. So
Okay.
God didn't bless Americans with unalienable rights that no other human has.
But when
That
you
would be
say God,
impossible.
that's a whole nother construct.
Well, God or nature, whoever you decided created you.
Your creator.
Yeah, just say natural law so we don't confuse some people. What's up, Shawty?
Right. Okay. So what happens
What's up, baby?
is when men enter into society, men or women, in law, it's both the same thing. I'm not trying to use it introspectively or whatever. I'm just using it. But whenever we enter into society, society says, hey, these natural rights you had, they don't blend well with our society. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you civil rights. These are rights that society, whatever society you're in, has deemed appropriate for its citizens. Okay. Now, if the right to a speedy trial was a natural, unalienable right, then women and African Americans wouldn't have had to fought and did their civil rights movement and march. Okay. Because Africans and Americans and women were both citizens of the United States long before they were given the right to vote, long before they were given a lot of other rights. You understand what I'm saying? Civil rights, the word civil in and of itself comes from civil government. Okay. And the reason we have to fight for these rights, the reason that women had to fight for suffrage and the African Americans had the civil rights movement is because we have to petition the government for these rights. They're given to us either, by law, which is like constitutions, or given to us through the courts, which is case law.
What I'll say there is, does the Constitution not say these are your natural rights endowed to you by your creator?
No, it does not. It says that in the Declaration of Independence. Okay. And let me show you the difference. Okay. in the Declaration, no, this is something that no one has ever really thought about. Okay. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, right? And he
and another cat that never gets credit for it. It's a younger dude, which I can't think of.
Benjamin Rush.
I think that might be right. But the point I'm trying to make here is what the most important part, and the one that Jefferson himself penned, was that each man is created equal with God-given unalienable rights. Okay. Right. Now put your thinking cap on. Okay. Yeah. Because he wrote this as at the same time he owned men who were not considered his equal who had no God-given rights,
You didn't
supposedly, because
consider
they
them
were
men.
slaves.
That's right. Yeah.
You didn't consider
Okay.
them to be men.
Right, because in law they were not considered men. Correct. Okay, so there's wordplay going on there. Okay, so now when the Constitution was written, did they name it the Bill of Unalienable Rights? Is that what it's called?
It's just the Bill of Rights.
That's right. It's just the Bill of Rights. It's not the Bill of Unalienable Rights. As a matter of fact, you won't find the words inalienable rights anywhere in the Constitution, my friend. And if you look even further in the 14th Amendment, it doesn't say that the United States citizens are due the rights, civil rights or inalienable rights. What it says is that the United States citizens are due all the privileges and immunities of all the citizens in all the states. It doesn't say anything about rights for U.S. citizens in the Fourth Amendment, and excuse me, the 14th Amendment.
I'm glad that's what it is.
So these are important distinctions, okay, and not to be overlooked, because in law every word has a meaning, and they know exactly what they're doing when they write this stuff. If the Bill of Rights was supposed to be natural unalienable rights, it would be called the Bill
They
of
would have put
Unalienable
them on.
Rights. Right. Just like, here's another example. I gave another gentleman like 20 minutes
So
ago on the
let
phone.
me ask real quick: are the Bill of Rights not inalienable?
No, sir, they're not. They can be taken, they can be enlarged, they can be restricted. Case in point, Chicago. People in Chicago were United States citizens. However, they were denied their Second Amendment rights for 30 years.
Yeah, and we still kind of fuzzy.
Exactly. So
The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. Where's the issue there?
The issue, right?
but
I'm in agreement with you, John. How the fuck is that even possible, man? How can they make laws changing, guiding, encapsulating my ability to bear arms? And I'm sure Roe will go into what
I
that
thought you needed
bear arms mean.
3/4 of the states to agree, or 2/3 of the states, or something.
Yes,
well,
but all those people
that's for
also agree
amendment.
that they want to keep it out, them guns out the ghetto, because they've been trained that shit. So they're kind of torn.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the whole point of fighting for our rights, because civil rights can be restricted. Not only in Chicago, I mean, they're restricting how many bullets you can have in your magazines.
We
You
just
know,
went to Virginia because they were restricting their rights.
exactly. So, and what happens is, and this is how they get us. Okay, it's always in the public good, or for the public will, is what they'll say.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so basically,
nonsense.
so basically what they'll say is,
Yes.
you can have these rights as long as it's in the public's benefit. If it's not in the public's benefit, then we will restrict these rights to make it in line with the public benefit. Okay, none of our rights are that in the Bill of Rights are unalienable, and they can be restricted. They can be taken away from us. Martial law is a perfect example. This coronavirus is a perfect example of us, being restricted in our rights, and it's part and parcel of the society that we live in.
All right,
Now,
we're gonna have to. I don't want to dictate the show, Jeff, but I think you only dictate. You give it an hour for this, or a small amount of time, and we haven't gone into the Fourth Amendment in particular. If you don't mind, I'm gonna read it.
well, if you'd have got here on time, Joe, you would have learned a little something.
All right.
Yeah, Joe.
And you
All
let
right.
me deal with this show. I got this.
I was late too.
All right. Anybody on the panel that's not going to be in the discussion, you might want to make room for ones that are.
All right, guys, I wanted to stop in. Thank you, Rogue. You actually educated me. I thought I knew better than that, but you know better than I do, and I'm gonna go win this pool tournament. Thanks, everybody. See you.
Right on, John.
all right,
Peace.
John, buddy. Always get in touch with me, buddy. I'll be happy to go over anything you need, my man.
Go ahead, Rogue. Continue, man. You was doing great.
Okay, so I forgot kind of where we were at with the whole thing. So let me just give a recap again for the new people that are joining us, and give a little recap there for Joe there as well.
I
The
just
fourth,
was trying to read the Fourth Amendment before we continue. That's all I was trying to do. I didn't ask for a recap. I just wanted to read the fucking Fourth Amendment so everybody who was in here know exactly what we're saying.
oh
But
well,
Jeff,
I don't have,
yes, you
I don't have,
go. I got it
I
in
don't.
front of me.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I don't have
It's
it in
only a
front of me.
couple fucking sentences. So you guys notice the Fourth Amendment? The first part, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, paper, and effects. You hear every freaking against unreasonable searches and seizures. You hear every fucking auditor spout that. Shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued. So it also tells you exactly what you need a warrant, what the judge needs, what it takes to get that warrant. But upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be seized and the person and things to be seized. So it gives you a right where they can't seize your shit, and it's very particular about what they must go through in order to seize your stuff.
That was really close.
Well, let the Canadian give me a better explanation. You go ahead, Tim. And I'm sorry for being a jerk, but I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead. Let me hear
Yeah.
you ahead.
I'm just saying you were really, really close.
Okay.
See, the thing about all these amendments, I keep bringing this up, is they all come together, and of course the fifth one has to play off of the fourth, and there's a reason why they're written that way. And when it says the right of a person to be secure, the right of people to be secure in their persons, that means their own personal safety. Really, it's kind of like you need to encompass the whole thing. So when you guys were talking about the Second Amendment, that's part of this too. Like they all play into each other. And then, like you're saying about auditors, they quote this all the time, but we know about the Supreme Court. And then when it says no warrant shall issue, that means that if they do issue them, the people who are guilty of issuing them without what comes after that, but upon probable cause, supported by oath of affirmation. It must be supported by an oath of affirmation. But how many times have we seen people show up with unsigned warrants or signed by the wrong people, but the police will still enforce them?
I've had them come to my house twice with one unsigned and the other with a bogus signature that you couldn't read. And how many times have we seen the police give false information to the judge and they tell them? I think that just happened in the case with the somebody. Oh, I think the somebody with a post office employee supposedly started all of that shit. The police said, and it turns out the post office did not kick that shit off. I don't know what the case that is.
And then the last part where it says by oath of affirmation and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. That's the whole point of why they're not supposed to be able to search you on the side of the road. They can't just say for officer safety. That's absurd why they're going in your pockets. So it's a direct violation of the entire thing.
Okay, let me say that 94% of house searches are done without warrants. They trick the people into letting them in. Okay.
Ooh,
so we need to let people know about their rights, because that way they can ask for the warrant at the door. I came across a house search where I was screaming and yelling, and at the last minute I thought, hey, wait, what about the warrant? So I shouted at the homeowner, where's the search warrant? And the guy goes, where's the search warrant? And they all had to leave after I screamed for 20 minutes, right? But as far as the side of the road, they're allowed to do what's called a Terry frisk, which is officer safety, which is a pat down, not going in your pockets, not going in your wallets, but for officer safety, they can pat down to see if you have a weapon. They can't go in your wallets or pockets, but they do, because they trick you. And that's all I got to say. But 94% are done without a warrant.
The way they get past that, by not going in your pockets, they're not violating your right to be free from search and seizure, which affects your house as well, and your car and your person as you're walking down the street. They'll tell you, I'm not searching you, I'm just patting you, and somehow to them, that's not a search. They can look in your car with a flashlight, looking all down on your floorboards, and I'm not searching you. To them, I don't know, that they're not really searching.
They can't search you if Jeff's in a car with a flashlight.
I know,
That's right.
right?
But yeah, 94% are done without search warrants. So people need to know about what a search warrant is and what to look for when they hand it to you. Because sometimes they'll say, hey, my partner has it, or you can look it up on the computer. No, it has to be handed to you. A piece
And my
of paper.
point,
I've seen them.
my point of this,
Yeah.
sorry,
No, you go.
I just wanted to finish up what I was saying is my point of that, and it's kind of similar to what a good friend of ours that's on the panel right now experienced. Like, I don't know about every single state and thing, but most places across North America, if you do not have a lock code on your phone, it is completely legal for them to just swipe and open that up and get any information off that they want. If a computer is not password protected, they're allowed to just go right ahead. If they break a lock, then it's a violation of your rights. But if they do not break a lock, even if it's digital,
in my shit should be a violation, I think.
just saying, if it's not locked, then
They will go on.
there is no violation. There is no violation whatsoever if it's not locked.
Yeah.
Unless they have a warrant.
I'm just saying. So if you don't lock your cell phone, if your body camera has the option to put a lock on it, lock it. Otherwise, they're not violating anything.
Yeah,
That's right. That's just like if they were to show up at your house and your door was wide open. You know, there's lots of exemptions that can get around even, you know, the house warrant. You know, they could say, oh, I thought I saw a criminal, you know, run through here. I was chasing a criminal. I saw him run through your house. And I'm coming in to search your house. You know, there's
a guy today said they knocked and the door opened when they knocked. Good thing the people had a Ring doorbell, and it showed that they were lying and they were trying to get in, and it was all bullshit. But they said that they had knocked and the door swung open, so they were concerned. They raised their guns and went in the search, and that flew with the courts until the people was like, "No, here's my Ring doorbell." But that they was going to use that as an excuse. Hey, door was open, we went in, and the courts were cool with it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they'll say, I have an arrest warrant for so-and-so, but that doesn't allow them to go in your house.
Exactly.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, however, if he is found hiding in your house after they've approached you and told you they had an arrest warrant for it, then you will probably be charged with harboring a fugitive or obstructing justice or something along those lines. So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the law is tricky because it allows them to get away with a lot of stuff, and they pull it out, you know, on the people. Just like Caroline was saying, 94% of warrants or house searches don't involve a warrant because people consent to the search, just like people consent to giving ID when they're walking down the road and the cop pulls up and says, "Hey, you look suspicious," or "Hey, you fit the description." You know, we've been trained to automatically try to dispel that, you know, that information. Oh, no, that wasn't me. Go ahead.
Do you ever notice that 90+% of the time, the people that fit the description just happen to be dark skinned?
Oh yeah, or the description is very general. You know, when they want to catch someone, they'll just be like, "It was this black cap, black shirt." One fucking county said, "Yeah, stop anybody black." They got in trouble for that. They was like, "Well, most of us white. We figured it'd be a black guy." Oh,
yeah. Well, let's stay on point, guys.
Well, but it is sort of on point. Let me bring it in this way. The reason they do that, they say, is because the highly disproportionate amount of crime that African Americans are attributed to. But let me go even further than that. If I have all my cops stationed in poor African American neighborhoods, then they're obviously going to be catching these guys doing crime because they're not in the rich white neighborhoods where they're all doing coke and hookers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
it makes sense that you're catching more African Americans committing crime because that's where you put your attention to. That's where you put your focus at.
And
you
then, that next year you say, look at the statistics are up. We need more cops. Then more cops find more crimes. Then more crimes create more cops. This is a vicious fucking circle.
Well, the reason that happens is because the justice system kicks out violent offenders a lot quicker than it kicks out nonviolent offenders. If you look at the rate of incarceration for marijuana growers compared to the incarceration time for rapists and murderers, you're going
Murderers, yeah.
to see hugely disproportionate numbers. You know, one guy will get 50 years for growing marijuana. Another guy beats a guy to death. He's out in 6 years. You know what I mean?
That's because the whole thing is built on bread. You got more marijuana growers, more drug
Hey,
users.
Joe, let him finish what he was saying. Jesus, man, he can't even get done.
Hey, man, listen, motherfucker, that's our conversation. Go.
There you go. Disrespect me and my panel, you don't come back.
So,
Go ahead, Rose. He kept interrupting you every freaking time you start talking.
So the reason why they're doing that and keeping the nonviolent offenders longer is because they realize the recidivism rate for people let out of prison is about 70%. Okay. So when they kick violent offenders out, they realize, hey, these guys are going to keep committing crimes. Okay. Whereas nonviolent offenders might not. So if I keep kicking out these violent offenders, the crime rate is not really going to go down too awful much. And I'll be able to use that as a, hey, we need more officers. We need more tax money. We need more of this. We need more of that. But if you look at the crime statistics in the United States, violent crime and crime overall, it's been steadily dropping since the 70s. Okay. However, since the 70s, you've done the complete opposite with law enforcement. It's like the military. They're just building it up and building it up and building it up, even though crime is dropping and dropping. And it's not the police that are dropping, the crime rate. It's people that are having more to live for, people that are, doing better in life and don't want to commit crime, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? People today are a lot more better off than they were in the 20s and 30s and even 40s and 50s.
Right.
So there's less crime per se of that.
CFW, you got something?
Yes, that's true because about the black neighborhoods, etc. 1 out of 3 people. If you're black, you have a 1 in 3 chance of going to jail. If you're white, a 1 in 12 chance. If you're Mexican, 1 in 7. And as far as the recidivism rate goes, as far as them getting out of jail and going back in, that's what recidivism means. Most of them go back because of parole violations, and not because they stole anything, not because they committed a new crime, because they didn't have the money to get to pay their fee at the probation office. So what they do is they say, "Oh, I'll just make it up next month. I'll get a job. I'll make it up next month." And they make it impossible for them to get a job because what they do is you have to on your application, you have to say you've been to the pen. You also have like the nice jobs are over in a far side of town where you don't have a car. So they're there for parole violations. 1/3 of the prison population that goes back is there for parole violations. I mean, 1/3 of the prison population is there for parole violations. That's a lot. So,
well, the reason why I had brought up the about people of dark skin having the Fourth Amendment violated on a continuous basis was quite simply because what's become adorable is over the past 20 years or so that it happens to white people and rich people way more often. And now they're starting to get upset. But everybody else has been dealing with it for generations. And now it's become a big deal because it's happening to other people. And that's what I find cute about all of this, is nobody even cared about any of this stuff until it started being taken away. Well, it's a little bit late once it's already gone.
That's absolutely right. They didn't care about crack in the poor neighborhoods until the rich white suburbanites started going out there and getting hooked on crack. Then it's a big deal. And it's been the same way with everything. And it's not just African Americans either. It's not a race war; it's a class war, and it's the elite against the poor. And that's always the way it's been throughout the history of society. I mean, you won't look at any society that has not broken down the members of its society into some kind of class, and or title of nobility or whatever have you not. They actually call it status. And if you look in the Black's Law Dictionary and you look up the word person, because one thing you'll notice if you start reading the statutes and the codes is that they never talk about a man or a woman. Okay, so I'll give you an example. In the United States, all the laws are supposed to apply to every man and every woman. Okay, so you would imagine when you go to look at a law, let's say it's a law that says you shall not smoke marijuana. You would think that the law would say no man or woman shall be in possession of marijuana, right? Because it makes sense. You're including every man and woman, but it doesn't say man or woman. It uses the term person. And when you look up the definition of a person, you'll notice that it's not just a man or a woman. You know, if you look up the definition, it doesn't say, you know, person, a man or a woman. It doesn't say that. What it says is Black's Law Dictionary, the latest one, said it's a man according to his status in society. Okay. And going back into anthropology, there's a gentleman named Hobel who wrote a book called Man in the Primitive World. And he dedicates a whole chapter to the term status. And he basically lays out again the fact that in every society, the members have always been broken up in the classes or status. And we find the same thing happening here today, even though, you know, they promised us that there'd be no titles of nobility. But it's still, you know, basically the same thing. And it's always going to be that way, because these people in power, they have the juice to make that stuff happen. They make beliefs happen. You know, what most people in America believe is what John D. Rockefeller wanted people in America to believe. It's what Andrew Carnegie wanted people to believe. You know what I mean? It's these people that started the public school systems were all, you know, mega business dudes like Carnegie and Rockefeller and stuff. They weren't starting public school to create competition for themselves. They started school because they realized that they would need workers trained to a minimum level in order to carry out their bidding. And that's basically exactly what's happened. I mean, you could trace it all the way, you know, forward to today. And laws only change when they benefit everybody, you know, at
You
the
got to mute
top.
CFW.
If you got something else, 10th, we're getting close to the hour, so keep it brief.
No, I was just saying CFW needed to mute because it was causing feedback. But I was just looking at exactly what you're referring to there, Rogue, and it's actually almost a little bit ominous when you read the definition of a person. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. And then it says further, a human being considered as capable of having rights and of being charged with duties, while a thing is the object over which rights may be exercised. That is a very, very ominous. That's why I wish people would read this stuff. It's ominous when you read this stuff that they've put in place to counter what our laws actually are, where they're literally telling you, like, you have duties that go along with these rights, and it's like, no, that's not how it works.
Right. Now let me do this real quick. I'll leave you with this. There's been a debate in our country ever since Roe v. Wade. Why isn't a fetus considered a person? Okay. And the reason is for the exact reason that 10th just read the definition. A fetus cannot be assigned rights and duties. Okay. When the fetus is born, it becomes a person. You can assign it rights and duties. But as a fetus, it cannot be assigned rights and duties. Hence, it's not a person. Hence, it doesn't get the protections in our law that a person does. Okay.
But what I'm saying about it is that that's bastardizing what the law actually is. That's why I say about the law societies are, in my opinion, like an evil organization that actually trick people, like you were saying. They're changing the way we understand law to make us literally possessions. Sorry.
Nope, you good. CFW, you got something else to add?
See, people like Tent just said that people are starting to figure it out. It's because they're almost running out of people to arrest. They just keep arresting people, and it doesn't really affect anybody until it happens to them. They don't really care. But when you have, like in our jail, we have 5,000 people in jail. 2,500 people are in jail there waiting trial because they couldn't afford the bail to get out. So it's just a way to keep the poor people into jail. Now they're not having, because of COVID, they're not having the trials. So they're not doing outside trials or the inside trials. So now they're just piling more people into the jail, even though they said they wouldn't, for petty things. I know they committed a crime, but little amounts of marijuana, shoplifting, things like that. They're in jail for 2 years, up to 2 years, 2.5 years now, because that's how far back the trials are. And they might be innocent, but of course they're going to take the plea. Another thing is in Fort Worth, we don't have a public defender's office. So how does the poor people get their lawyer? The judge appoints them. How fair is it when the judge appoints your lawyer for you?
Right.
So there you go. So it's just a way to keep the black man down, the poor man down. And that's why we got to educate everybody on this stuff, because they get over on you. And I've been gotten over on. I have.
Right
but,
on.
you know, and until you get over on, you don't know. And that's why people don't care. And that's
Right.
how we got to get, that's why we got to get these people on board.
Right. Right. We almost out of time, man. You got something to throw in there?
No,
right quick?
I want to jump in and say hello to everybody. Hey, Carolina. Hey, 10th man. What's up, Major Lee Awesome? Cool picks. And thanks for having us all here, Jeff.
Right.
You're an
Right.
awesome host.
Right
I
on.
just got home. I was going to stay out there on the East Coast, but I decided to drive back home today. We had a lot of stuff to do here at home. And I want to just jump in, but you guys are wrapping up. So I got to just add, you know, that whole thing about person versus we the people. So as soon as you commit a crime, that's it. You're a person. And until then, you're one of we the people. And that's why I think somebody said Press On would be an awesome guest on here, because he doesn't like being called a person, and he doesn't like being called Press On either. He likes being called one of the people.
Right.
It's pretty neat. And I think we'll be hearing from him again soon. I haven't seen him in a while, but a little bird told me that we'll be hearing from him again soon.
Thank God, because I've been looking for him.
If anybody has got his information, reach out to him and tell him we doing, you know, the amendments, and maybe he'll like to jump on one night.
He won't.
Yeah. Oh, I said maybe, but all right. Anything? Any last words, Major Lee?
No, buddy, I'm good. I'm gonna cut out of here and finish some family time tonight.
Right on, man. Thank you guys. Thanks, CFW, 10th man.
Already?
Yeah, well, we're trying to keep it under an hour. Right, thanks for jumping up here. I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna shut it down now.
For sure.
10 minutes and have an after party.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I usually do. I appreciate all y'all being here, man. If you stick around, I'll go live. Just about give me 2 minutes.
Okay,
Right.
great.
All right.
See you in a minute, Rights.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Yo, I'm gonna take you down. There you go. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Thanks everybody for being in the chat. Thanks for the people on the panel. I really appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys in just a minute.